Sure, there's a bunch of them, and I think, like, one of them being the second-year quarterbacks. Last year's rookie class was so good. Can
Mhm.
somebody like a Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, can they even add to that? Could this go down as the greatest quarterback class of all time? Like, I mean, it sounds crazy given how good 1983 was, but, we're seeing the seeds of, all 6 of these guys look pretty strong, pretty good. So, really interested to see that, and I think one.
Welcome to the Sports Night interview, everyone. It is an exciting time of the year. We are just around the corner from the start of NFL training camp. And joining us today to discuss a lot of the top storylines heading into training camp is Frank Schwab, senior writer for Yahoo Sports. And Frank, I know this is a very busy time of the year for you, getting all your work and all your prep done prior to the start of the season. So we appreciate you making a few minutes for us here today.
Absolutely, it's always fun this time of year because it's just ramping up. Training camps are starting. We're gonna get preseason soon. It's a long off season, so it's good to have NFL football coming back to our lives.
Definitely. I know everyone out there is excited. Let's first start with this topic. Last year we had the Eagles and the Chiefs' chances of a three-peat in the Super Bowl. We had the Lions continuing to be a very good feel-good story in the NFL. The Bills fell short once again. We had the emergence of Jaden Daniels in the Commanders. But as you are looking ahead to the start of a new season, is there a storyline or two that has caught your eye and that you're excited to see here play out in the next season?
Sure, there's a bunch of them, and I think, like, one of them being the second-year quarterbacks. Last year's rookie class was so good. Can
Mhm.
somebody like a Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, can they even add to that? Could this go down as the greatest quarterback class of all time? Like, I mean, it sounds crazy given how good 1983 was, but, we're seeing the seeds of, all 6 of these guys look pretty strong, pretty good. So, really interested to see that, and I think one overarching thing with the NFL is we're almost seeing Patrick Mahomes be like the Michael Jordan of the 1990s in that it means that, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are the Charles Barkley and Patrick Ewing of the generations. Like, how do these guys break through? Can the Bills break through and get to a Super Bowl? Can the Ravens, who have been really, really, really good with Lamar Jackson, can they finally break through and make a Super Bowl? It's been hard because the Chiefs are making all the championship games, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I think that's big. I mean, you got 2 absolute positive superstar quarterbacks, guys who are on Hall of Fame paths, and neither one has made a Super Bowl yet. And can they break through that? So I think that's big. I think the Chiefs bouncing back is there a Super Bowl hangover. I think that's they had that weird season last year, all the close wins. The storylines are endless. So that's what I'm trying to get to. Is that when we get to this point in the season, every team has something interesting to watch, something fun to follow. But those are some of the ones that, off the top of my head, that I'm really excited to see.
All right, you brought up some really good topics there, and I want to follow up with. Let's start with the Chiefs. You mentioned the hangover effect, and I wanted to ask you about that because I recently heard some of the comments that were made by Patrick Mahomes, and he's referring to this season as a revenge tour after the lopsided loss they had last year in the Super Bowl. Do you think that the league should be on notice after those comments, or do you see some chinks in the armor? I mean, there's some concerns out there with maybe the depth at receiver, the weapons around Mahomes. Kelsey's a year older, Rashi Rice returning from the knee injury, and there's also some concerns out there with the offensive line. So, what's your thoughts on that?
I find it funny that Patrick Mahomes is out here talking about a revenge tour from a team that won 15 of its first 16 regular season games.
Yeah,
But if we're comparing Mahomes to Jordan, Jordan used everything as a slight and motivation, and I'm sure
yeah,
Mahomes is using that. I mean, they did get blown out and embarrassed in the Super Bowl, but Philly had a good day, and that was a good football team. I don't see any reason why the Chiefs take much of a step back. If anything, the return of Rasheed Rice really changes their offense. They missed him last year, and I think too that Isaiah Pacheco was not himself after injuring his leg really early in the season. So if he can bounce back to his normal form, if Rasheed Rice returns to what he was early last season and late the season before that, I think he adds to the offense. Yes, Travis Kelsey's getting older, and he's probably not going to be that all pro guy anymore. I don't think that that's realistic,
yeah.
but I think that he could still be a valuable piece. The offensive line, yeah, the offensive line might be an issue, but look, They won, again, 15 of their first 16 regular season games and made a Super Bowl last year with that same offensive line before it fell apart in the Super Bowl. So I think the Chiefs are still the class of the AFC West. It's hard to pick against them in the AFC period, although I do like the Ravens more, I have to admit. But the Chiefs are just, if anything, it's just all these close wins can't happen again. That was so fluky and weird. And I get that they're always going to be better in close games than your typical team because of Andy Reid, because of Patrick Mahomes. But that was just such a crazy historic outlier that might fall back. I don't think they're going to start 15-1 this season. Let's put it that way. But I do think the Chiefs are still one of the best teams in the NFL. It wouldn't surprise me at all to be writing about them in another Super Bowl next February.
Yeah, again, to bring up that Jordan analogy, when you had Jordan and Phil Jackson together, I always tell people, as long as Andy Reid and Mahomes are together, it's hard to pick against those two. So I agree with you on your thoughts there about the Chiefs heading into the season. Now, the other thing you touched on there in our first topic was some of the second-year quarterbacks. And I want to stay with JJ McCarthy for just a second, because the Vikings have put a lot of faith in him. They decided to move on from Sam Darnold after a career year from him. He led the Vikings to 14 wins. Now, we know McCarthy's coming off essentially a redshirt season with the knee injury. Do you think that he will return the good faith that the Vikings brass had in him this season and get off to a good start? Or do you think it could be a season of growing pains in Minnesota?
Yeah, I the longer the offseason's gone on and I've thought about the Vikings, I wonder why people are so low on them. They won 14 games last year. Their win total right now in Las Vegas is 8.5, which puts them as a 500 team. Why would they take that big of a step back? Do we think Sam Darnold was that good? Probably not. Like, I like Sam. I think he had a good season. I think Seattle's totally fine signing him, but all of a sudden we were turning Sam Darnold into some superstar that they can't replace. JJ McCarthy's a guy they traded up to draft with the 10th overall pick, drafted ahead of Bo Nix, who had a great rookie season. I'm not saying that JJ McCarthy is going to be able to replicate that, because Bo is really good, but why can't he? Why can't JJ McCarthy be really good coming out of the gate? Just because he was out of sight, out of mind last year, that doesn't mean he can't be a really good player. It's still the same great situation that Sam Darnold thrived in. Good coaching, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson is healthy, which he wasn't at the beginning of last year, a better offensive line. So I just wonder why these people think the Vikings are going to regress so badly. Are they going to win 14 games again? No, that's unrealistic. But why can't they be a double-digit win team with JJ McCarthy being a really good, efficient quarterback? I don't see any reason that can't happen. Yes, draft busts happen all the time, and maybe we'll look back in 5 years and say, wow, JJ McCarthy, that was a mistake. I have no reason to believe that right now, though. I think that JJ McCarthy is actually going to do really well. I think the Vikings are going to do really well. I just have their infrastructure is so strong. That's why Sam Darnold succeeded to the extent he did, not just because Sam Darnold was some instant superstar. I don't believe that. I believe that the Vikings are going to put JJ McCarthy in position to succeed, and I think they're going to be a really good team this year.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, great supporting cast there for him, plenty of weapons, great head coach, and very small sample size, but from what we saw from McCarthy during training camp, a little bit in preseason games, he was on the right track at least. So we'll see how he bounces back from that injury. I want to ask you about one other quarterback. That's Aaron Rodgers. I know a lot of people are kind of burned out from Aaron Rodgers, but he is a Hall of Fame quarterback we're talking about here. He makes a move to another team now. The Steelers, a team that have been pretty good despite some lackluster quarterback play here. How much do you think Aaron Rodgers moves the needle in that AFC North division? It's a good division. But is he going to be a big difference maker in that division and in the conference overall?
Yeah, and I've been asked this, like somebody asked what's the upside of the Steelers, and I had to think about it and say, well, they won 10 games last year with Russell Wilson starting quarterback most of the year. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be worse than that? Probably not. Like, it's Aaron Rodgers, for as bad as the Jets were last year, Aaron Rodgers was not that bad over the last 10 games last year. 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He ain't the MVP anymore. That ain't going to happen, but he was still a pretty good quarterback down the stretch last year. A little inconsistent, had a bad game at Buffalo. I mean, that might happen when you're at his age, but he's still, I think, an upgrade at quarterback for the Steelers. And again, they won 10 games last year. That all seemed a little fluky. It didn't seem like the Steelers were that good, but how often do we say that about the Steelers? Mike Tomlin gets the most out of his team. So I can't sit here and say that oh, the Steelers are going to be terrible because Aaron Rodgers. I don't know that I buy that. Now, I will say this. He's going to turn 42 this year. The history of 42-year-old quarterbacks in the NFL is basically one guy. Tom Brady was good at 42 and beyond. Nobody else has done it. Nobody else has even put a decent season out there at age 42 or beyond. So we're asking Aaron Rodgers to be the second quarterback in this will be the 106th season of NFL football. Aaron Rodgers will be the second quarterback in 106 seasons of NFL football to be good at age 42. That's a lot to ask. So, but he also is an outlier in his career. He's been one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So maybe he can do that. I think mostly though, for all the hoopla, for all the hype, for all the weight, I think it's going to be kind of boring. I think he's just going to be okay. I think Steelers are just going to be okay. They're going to go into the last week like 8-8, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be a middle of the road quarterback. Not great, not terrible. And we're all going to say at the end of the year, was that really worth it? Because I don't see Aaron Rodgers really falling off a cliff. I think he's going to be fine. I don't see the Steelers being some 5-12 team. I think they're going to be fine, but I don't also see them as being challengers to the Ravens, a contender for the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be a top 5 quarterback for sure. So I just kind of see this is all much ado about nothing. I just think it's going to be kind of one of those weird ho-hum final season for Aaron Rodgers in the NFL where we're going to look back on it in 20 years and say, oh yeah, that's right. He played that last season with the Steelers. It's going to be kind of unmemorable, as crazy as that sounds, being how much we've talked about Aaron Rodgers this
absolutely. Fair points there. I've been watching that Netflix series Quarterback. I'm sure a lot of people out there have also watched it. It's a great show. But Joe Burrow, one of the featured quarterbacks on the show, and I just saw the episode where they were talking about the slow starts that the Bengals have had in the last couple of years, 0-2, and then an 0-3 start last year. Is there a team you look around the league that you can point to that you think it's really important that they have just a real good, clean, efficient, distraction-free kind of training camp to ensure that they get off to a real good start? Teams that maybe have a little pressure on them going into the season. Perhaps it's the Bengals or a team like the Cowboys or the Packers. What's your take on that?
I think the Cowboys are always a candidate for that because everybody overreacts to everything they do. And if they start 0-3 with Brian Schottenheimer as our new coach, you will hear people calling for him to be fired. Like it's crazy the way we treat the Cowboys. We treat the Cowboys unlike any other team. We treat them like an SEC team where every loss is a reason to fire the coach and they're just going to fall off the planet. So I think Dallas is in there. I think the Bengals is a good example of a team that, and especially with the Trey Hendrickson thing going on, the Shamar Stewart thing going on, are these guys going to be there week 1? I assume so, but we don't know. And the Bengals are such an interesting team because there are many, there's an argument to be made that Joe Burrow just had the greatest season of all time for a quarterback whose team did not make the playoffs. He hit certain statistical markers that no other quarterback who missed the playoffs has ever hit before. I wrote about it in my Bengals preview. So what did the Bengals do? I mean, most teams would be like, wow, we have to overturn things. We have to really figure out. The Bengals just brought everybody back. They just are expecting different results. And maybe it happens. I don't know. Maybe Al Golden, who they hired as their new defensive coordinator from Notre Dame, maybe he's just the magic solution and turns around that defense. But maybe it's just you lose. They lost a lot of fluky games, close games. Maybe that just turns around. I get that. But mostly I look at the Bengals as, how are you better? How are you better than last year? And I don't know that I have a great answer to that. I mean, Joe Burrow can't play any better than he played last year. If the Bengals make the playoffs, he might win MVP. Like, he was that good last year. You can't expect him to be any better. You can't expect Jamar Chase to do better than the Triple Crown, which he won last year. So the Bengals are one of those teams because they have started slow. And also, I just think there's going to be questions about Zach Taylor and what are they doing around Joe Burrow? So I think the Bengals are a prime candidate for that as well. Just a team that really needs to get off to a good start. And like every team kind of needs to get off to a good start. I could go down the list. The Patriots with all their additions. You want to get confidence right away early in the season. The Dolphins, who everybody is down on. If they start slow, everybody's going to be piling on them. But I think that those are a couple teams that for sure just want to get out to a good start and kind of quell all the fears and overreactions that are going to happen with them.
Yeah, and one of the other things that the Bengals need to get figured out here pretty quickly is the Trey Hendrickson situation, because he's a key part of that defense.
Yep.
And again, you don't want a lot of distraction, a lot of noise going on throughout training camp. Last year we saw the Commanders break out. I mentioned that at the top of the interview with Jaden Daniels, just a breakout team last year, getting all the way to the conference championship game. when you look at the offseason, this past offseason, is there a team that you like what they've gotten done, whether it's maybe the hire of a new coach, free agent acquisitions, draft picks, maybe a combination of all of those things? But is there like a breakout candidate that you have for this year, or maybe even a team that you feel like is being a little bit underrated and you think could be primed for a breakout?
I think the Patriots are the obvious example
Really?
because they had what I think was the best free agent haul and the best draft class. I mean,
Mhm.
that's hard. And they hired a coach who, in Mike Vrabel, who I have ultimate respect for. I almost think that's too easy. They're not going 4-13 again. That's going to be a good football team. I also think the Buccaneers are, I know that they won their division last year, won 10 games. They've been pretty steady on top of the NFC South. I think they take a next step and become Super Bowl contenders this year. That offense is going to be awesome. Like, don't sleep on the Buccaneers now. Like, the Buccaneers are going to have a top 5 offense, maybe top 2, maybe top 1 offense. I mean, they're really loaded on offense. I think the defense can be better. But my answer to this is always the Jaguars. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are ready to win the AFC South. I think that how often do when we look at breakout teams that come out of nowhere, like the Commanders last year, one common thread among most of them is a coaching staff that was just kind of going through the motions or was just simply bad gets replaced by a young up and coming guy who brings in new energy, changes the culture. I think that could happen with the Jaguars. I was not impressed with Doug Peterson his last few years in Philly, all the time in Jacksonville. And now you had Liam Cohen, who did a great job with the Buccaneers offense last year. You add Travis Hunter to go along Brian Thomas, who was a breakout star last year. I think we're finally going to see Trevor Lawrence take that step we've all been waiting for. I'm not high on the Texans. I think they were pretty bad in the last half of last year. We forget that because they blew out the Chargers in the playoffs. But I'm high on the Jaguars. The Jaguars are my one flag plant team where I'm like, this team is going to be better than everybody thinks. This team's going to be in the playoffs. This team's going to win a division when nobody expects it. I think Liam Cohen is going to do a great job. I think he's going to win NFL Coach of the Year. And the Jaguars are my answer. If you ask me what's this year's Commanders, so to speak, I think it's the Jaguars. I think they have a lot of the similar tendencies that the Commanders had last year, who I was high on. Their receipts. I said the Commanders could be a playoff team last year. I think the Jaguars are in the same bucket where I think they could really have breakout potential here with Liam Cohen leading the way.
There you go. I like that selection there, and I think your reasoning was very sound. I'm also very high on Liam Cohen. We saw the great things he did with the Buccaneers, and you mentioned the Buccaneers is another one of those teams. We'll see how the loss of a play
You're
caller
right.
like
Yep.
Cohen affects them in their success on offense. But there's a lot of talent there, no doubt. And Baker Mayfield seems like he's on the right track now. But Frank Schwab, everybody, thank you so much for your time, Frank. Before we let you run, anything we should be on the lookout for that you want to just kind of preview for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Just writing my team by team previews, counting them down from 32 to 1. We started with the Titans a few weeks ago at number 32, moving up into the top 10 soon. So those are always fun to write, and just kind of gets me fired up for the season, just digging deep into all these teams. So we will definitely, with training camp right around the corner, it's like summer's over. It's time to get back to work. So the
That's right.
NFL's back.
All right. Thank you so much, Frank. Check him out on yahoosports.com. All the NFL team previews, does a great job for Yahoo and always does a great job when he comes on with us here. Frank, we appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.